Hey everyone, it's Travis, the Pagan Scholar, here with another video for tarot and poetry. So, for the first time in a very long time, I was on Twitter, and I tweeted, Binnabel win, and later that day I was in a used bookstore, and what did I find? The Holistic Tarot, or just Holistic Tarot. This is a beast! This is huge! This is awesome! So I'm gonna try my best to get through this, but I think this is going to be a fantastic source book, and I'm super excited for that. Normally, I like to purchase books. If I'm purchasing a book from an author that I'm really supportive of, I try to buy it new, but it was just such great providence that, I had a short conversation with her, and then later that day, there it was. Otherwise, I would have had to order it. So I was like, that's a sign, let's get this book. So, today, we are talking about the moon. The beverage of choice for the poet at work right now, in light of the moon, is of course going to be Blue Moon. That's such a campy old joke, but whatever. Alright, so the textbook definition of the moon, taking from, Tarot for Writers, because it's short and concise, we've got, generally speaking, the moon symbolizes the dreamlike world of intuition and the shadows of mystery and illusion. What the fuck does that tell us? That doesn't tell us anything. To go with Wynn's interpretation or understanding, definition, what have you, of the moon, we've got a bit more detail. A reflection of the inner self is emerging. The moon represents the shadow of the self, the unconscious mind, repressed weakness. It suggests the accumulated repressions are now causing the seeker shadow to surface and affect the self-conscious. That is much more spot on than Tarot for Writers' mystery and illusion definition. For me, the moon has always been kind of the what the fuck card. It's been the delving into deep waters and mystery. It kind of evaded any sort of definition of being pinned down because it was just such an evanescent card. It was so difficult to define. Anytime it ever popped up in a reading for me, it was sort of like, well, shit, there's not going to be a clear-cut answer for this, is there? That's really sloppy tarot work on my part, I know, but that's just, I can't help it. That's how I've always interpreted the moon. And with Wynn's words on the matter, it makes a lot more sense that I felt that way because it's sort of like unresolved self-conscious issues rising and bubbling up. And so, alright, this is good. So, of course, we've got your Rider-Waite deck. This moon, it's a lot brighter than I remember. So we've got the two dogs, one feral, one tame. I mean, it looks like someone's pet and a coyote. And then the lobster coming out of the waters, all staring up at the moon between two towers. Kind of just, I don't know, there isn't a lot that I can connect with in the Rider-Waite deck representation of the moon. In the fantasy deck, we have a little bit more going on. It's more metaphoric, I guess. We have three different priests, or people of clergy, if you want to call it that, where one of them is wearing a wolf mask, another one is wearing what looks like some sort of feline mask, but I'm assuming it's supposed to be another kind of dog. And then in the background, we have somebody wearing a crustacean on their head between two pillars with the moon in the background. Very occult, evanescent, ethereal, things like that. The theme, I guess, of the moon, of mystery. And then the Night Sun deck. This tarot card is kind of creepy, but it's kind of awesome. We have, it can't really be reversed. I mean, it can because you've got a Roman numeral on top, and I think that speaks to the dual nature of the moon, the complete unfathomable mystery of the moon, that no matter which perspective you're looking at, the dark side of the moon or anything like that, it's still going to be shrouded in this mystery and this mystique of the subconscious and the underlying emotional bedrock or the spiritual bedrock of the situation or question at hand. So, to explore the moon in tarot, I wanted to read you Louise Glück, and it's Glück, not Gluck, because there's an umlaut over the U. She is a very interesting poet. Her poetry has this naked quality. The verbs that she uses are I wrote a paper over this, or not a paper, but like a little blurb of an assignment for a poetry class that I took that I actually posted online and can still be read right here. To give you a brief rundown, because that's a bunch of stuff that you don't really want to read. I mean, you should, totally, but to save you some headache, spare, exact, but enigmatic, her work has mythic dimensions, concerned to trace the outlines and gauge the power of those large psychic forces at work in life. The thrust and ache of men and women in their bodies, the dying orders of nature, the ancient repetitions of family life. Glück's books ask difficult questions about gender and generation and seek out the crepuscular moments of change with a dark, exalted imagination, a gravity of phrasing, and an unearthly tone. So this lady's got her shit together. She knows how to write. Without further ado, I want to read you Messengers. You have only to wait. They will find you. The geese flying low over the marsh, glittering in black water. They find you, and the deer, how beautiful they are, as though their bodies did not impede them. Slowly they drift into the open, through bronze panels of sunlight. Why would they stand so still if they were not waiting? Almost motionless until their cages rust, the shrubs shiver in the wind, squat and leafless. You have only to let it happen. That cry, release, release, like the moon wrenched out of the earth and rising full in its circle of arrows, until they come before you, like dead things, saddled with flesh, and you above them, wounded and dominant. This is a poem that is not about the moon. It is a poem of the genre of the moon, is what I'm going for with this. So let's talk about a couple specifics of the poem. Talking about poetry. Okay, so the verbs. You have only to wait. They will find you. Flying low. They find you. So this is kind of a very static, still poem. It's very quiet, and it's motionless. She even uses that word, almost motionless, until their cages rust. Slowly they drift into the open, through bronze panels of sunlight. Again, we've got this very transparent, very spider silk, fine, kind of permeable. That's kind of the word that I'm going for with this poem and with the moon, in that energy, that idea that the moon card represents delving into the subconscious and delving into ideas that are not solid, not concrete, how beautiful they are as if their bodies did not impede them. So this is something that again, it's diving in. I keep doing this, leaning into the camera, talking about this, doing it slowly, and rust, and all these other silly words, but it's true, and all of this culminates in this essence, this evanescence, this idea of the moon. And then in the third stanza, why would they stand so still if they were not waiting? And we have this again, this idea of stillness and waiting. Shivering in the wind, squat and leafless. And again, this is an idea of nakedness, an idea that when we do delve into the subconsciousness, it's not something that we can parade around with all of our securities and our egos intact. It's something that we will be squat and leafless when we are exploring all of these things. The fourth stanza, you have only to let it happen. That cry, release, release, like the moon wrenched out of the earth and rising full in its circle of arrows. Okay, yes, I did kind of select this poem because it did reference the moon literally. However, to let, that is it's a, come on language skills, I cannot remember. It's a different kind of verb. And that cry, release, release, all of this is sort of, it's suggested and it's expanding, I guess, is kind of how you can say it. These words are sort of spreading out very slowly, very thinly, and very transparently. Release, release. And then like the moon wrenched out of the earth and rising full in its circle of arrows, that I read into that Diana, because she was an archer and she was also a goddess of the moon. That is just me. That is not Louise Glück, or it might be, but that's just me. So a takeaway for this poem, again, poems don't have to mean anything. Sometimes they can just be, a situation or a feeling, an ethos, a pathos, anything. And I think that this is so copacetic with the moon card. Yes, because there is an actual reference to the moon, but the delivery and the way that she has selected certain words, bare adjectives, naked verbs, nervous verbs is the way that it's been described. And everything comes together in this super awesome, spooky, but not terrifying message of the moon card, and how it's this bubbling up of the subconscious and all of these problems that were kind of like, please don't come any closer. Not sure how else I can articulate on the moon, because it is such an ephemeral idea to pin down and examine. And Louise Glück's poetry is very difficult to pin down and examine because she's so masterful with her wordcraft that I think I just have to kind of leave it at that. I'm going to post a link in the description bar to the poem for you to explore yourself. I suggest reading it in a quiet place because it is a quiet poem. Please, please, please comment below on any poetry that you think would be fitting for the moon card. Also, just any comments that you had on the video at all. If you can articulate this better than I can, that would be fantastic. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, merry meet, merry part, and merry meet again.